Do you see yourself as curious, an investigator, a thinker? Maybe you're more reserved in relationships and you don't play into people's emotions. You like figuring things out and you love your alone time. You might be a 5 on the Enneagram. Or maybe you see yourself as being overly cautious and oftentimes indecisive. You're a hard worker, you're highly loyal with people that are close to you, and when you're not at your best, you process your challenging situations as being the end of the world, right? You, my friend, could be a 6 on the Enneagram. If you've missed any of these episodes, you have to go back and get caught up.
Yeah.
We've been looking at utilizing the Enneagram to better understand ourselves and those around us in ministry and in life. And, this is crucial when it comes to leadership, especially in the local church,
Yes.
but also in life in general, in any of your relationships. So today is part 4, understanding 5s and 6s. You ready to do this? I am too. Let's get started. Welcome to the Small Town Big Church Leadership Podcast, a place for pastors, church leaders, and volunteers to grow themselves and the local church. We're pastors Brad and Misty Hilton, church planters in rural America.
All right, so let's look at type 5. These guys are known as the investigator. So I'm going to kind of give you a little overview of just this type of personality. All right, they tend to be curious, independent, they're observant in their behavior, like they'd rather observe than like get in the middle of something. They love to pursue knowledge and learn. They really seek to understand the world around them and how it works. They often prefer privacy or like time alone to think without being like surrounded by lots of other people. The type 5 also likes to compartmentalize their life. So it's like they can deal with every area, like one thing at a time, like my work or my family. The type 5 is not ruled by their feelings, okay? Of all types on the Enneagram, they are the most emotionally detached. Now, this doesn't mean that like they don't have emotions.
Right.
They just don't get overwhelmed by their emotions.
Yeah, they don't get caught up in the emotions,
Or
their own emotions
drama.
or others' emotions, especially drama.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're also more rational thinkers. So a lot of times they see other people as being very irrational, especially those who are really like feeling centered, like the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s.
Usually very logical and highly intelligent.
Yes. Well, because they're learners and they love knowledge, right?
And thinking.
As kids, 5s are these very curious little guys, okay? They're imaginative, and they're the ones who they want to understand why things work the way that they do. My younger brother is a 5. So I remember growing
You're speaking
up.
of Brandon.
Well, you just gave it away, but yes. So growing
Who
up,
would not want to be on this podcast?
he would never have wanted to be interviewed or even talked about because he is a 5.
Right.
All right. But growing up, one of the things that I remember, and as a kid thinking it was weird because I wasn't this way, is Brandon was always taking things apart. I mean, like radios. Back in the day, guys, we had these radios. You like plug them in, okay? Music came out of them. Yeah.
And you listen to music.
He would take apart things like radios or appliances, pretty much anything electronic. Yeah. And I would come in the room and like...
He'd figure things out.
Well, it freaked me out a little bit because he would have all these parts and I'm like, oh, Mom's going to kill you.
That's never going back together.
What are you doing?
Right.
And I would say, was it broken? And listen, this was so not logical to me. He would say, no, I just wanted to know how it worked.
Right.
Okay, then I did not understand the Enneagram. Of course, I was also a kid.
Right.
But I'm a 3. I'm an achiever. We had that one a couple weeks ago. The way I see the world is so much different than the way he saw the world. 5s are so just rational. They're these investigators. They're curious. And it's very cool to understand now on this side, looking back, the way he saw the world and how we were so very different.
Right. Here's a few ways that they think, okay? I can take care of myself. I think others should be able to do the same. I don't always say things out loud, but in my mind, I'm pretty sarcastic and cynical. Sometimes that comes out.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes that comes out. I often feel awkward around other people. I'm okay if people ask me a few specific questions about myself, but I don't like it when people want to know more than that. I don't like it when people want to draw out a lot of information.
Yeah.
I don't like to be open and transparent and share
Yeah.
all the details and very to myself.
Very private.
I think thoughts are more reliable than feelings, okay? Very logical, very thoughtful. I need time alone. We've talked about this. I don't like big social gatherings. We've talked about that. So if you're a 5, maybe some of these things sound familiar to you. Let's look at specific strengths, though. Thinking through complex problems, observing the details of your environment, constantly learning and picking up new skills. This is what I love about the 5s, because I'm not like that, but because it's so draining to me, but to them it's like energizing. Okay, so maybe this is you. The ability to remain calm in a crisis. Okay, focusing completely on the task at hand. All right, but with these strengths also come pitfalls as well.
So here's some of the things that they might struggle with. Difficulty relating to the emotions of others because they're not very in tune with their emotions. It's also hard for them to handle emotional people.
Right. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. The tendency to be perceived as condescending sometimes. As I said earlier, just being completely disconnected at times with their own feelings, being detached or even isolating themselves from other people. All of these are things that can be pitfalls, okay? But for a healthy 5, I want to kind of help you to understand what it looks like to be healthy. A healthy 5 would manage appropriate balance between participating and observing. They engage with others pretty comfortably. These 5s are likely to have depth of knowledge in several areas of their lives, and they're actually willing to share those findings with other people, okay? But then, if you're not quite healthy, but you're not also completely unhealthy, you're kind of that average 5, here's what you might be like. You might hold to a scarcity mentality, which leads to hoarding your time, your space, maybe even your affection.
Yeah, you become a hermit.
Yep. They feel more at home observing, sitting back rather than participating, and thinking really becomes a substitute for feelings. Yeah. They also struggle with anything that makes them feel incompetent or incapable.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got the version of the unhealthy 5.
I would say probably the biggest thing for them would be independence.
Right.
Unhealthy 5s don't want to depend on anyone for anything. And they get really defensive. They have a defensive personality that's preoccupied with the feeling of security, independence, as I said, and privacy. They oftentimes feel like they're not enough and often express that way of thinking with judgment and cynicism and sarcasm. And when they do participate in family or social gatherings, church gatherings, they stay separate from other people. And we've seen this.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
This is definitely is a 5 thing. But if you're a 5, you want to work towards being the healthiest version of yourself as possible.
Yeah.
Any of us should,
Definitely.
no matter what your Enneagram number may be. And if you work with a 5, whether in your workplace or in your family or at church, you want to lean in with these people and appreciate them for the way they see the world and utilize their strengths on your team or in your family.
Definitely. Okay, so now we're going to move into type number 6. So,
the loyalist.
Yes, these are beautiful people.
Yes.
These guys are committed. 6s are reliable, they're hardworking, highly responsible, and trustworthy. The 6 are excellent troubleshooters. They can foresee problems and they foster cooperation with other people. But they can also become defensive, invasive, and anxious. All right? A lot of times running on stress while also complaining about it, okay? Right. They can be very cautious. They can be indecisive, but also reactive, defiant, and rebellious.
At their worst.
At their worst.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. 6s also have a strong need for security and consistency. So they really appreciate order and plans and rules, but they also highly value community, okay? And that is why these guys are so loyal. It's like if they become loyal to a group of people, even at the point of disagreeing with them, they don't walk away. They stick through it.
Yeah.
A lot of times they might be skeptical in people and in relationships at first, but if you win over a loyalist and you gain their trust, they will stick with you forever.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the thing I love about the 6. They are just so loyal.
They're great.
So let's look at some of their strengths.
Okay, so as we said, they're very loyal. They're very likable people.
Yes.
They're very caring. They have a warm heart. They're very hard workers. Oftentimes they're witty, very practical, very pragmatic, very helpful. They're highly responsible individuals because they want to be a big help. And but they also have some pitfalls, as we all do.
Yep.
And so let's talk about a few of those things just for a moment. One of the big factors when it comes to the unhealthy side of a 6 can be low self-esteem, anxiety issues. We've seen this a lot with 6s that we know and love dearly. We've seen anxiety creep up a lot in their walk with God. Exaggerated need for security, aggression, timidity. They oftentimes will even second guess their decisions. And this is probably one of the biggest things that I see in 6s is they have a really, really hard time. They always second guess themselves.
Right. So what's it like to be a 6? If you're a 6, you might think like this. I'm always imagining and planning for the worst. People say I'm loyal, understanding, funny, and compassionate. Being sure I've made the right decision is almost impossible. Like we said, they second guess. I don't like to find myself in unpredictable situations. Thus, they want security. People tell me I can be overly pessimistic, but I would say I am a realist. I'm slow to start, and once I do get started, I find myself continuing to think about what could go wrong in the situation. Last one I'll give you. I have to know people for a really long time before I can really trust them. Does that sound like you? You might be a 6.
I know a lot of you 6s are thinking right now, I don't like my number. Well, join the club. None of us like our numbers, okay? We don't like the unhealthy side, but there is an unhealthy side. Healthy 6s, though, there's a healthy side as well.
Yes.
They've learned to trust their own experiences of life, okay? They're aware that that certainty and accurate predictability are not likely in most situations. But you know what? They're productive, logical thinkers who almost always organize their thoughts and actions around what would be most advantageous for the common good. They're loyalists. You know, they're about honesty and about reliability. Healthy 6s are clear-eyed judges of character. They're a really good judge of character. Very good. So if you're a 6, hone in on this. This is your strength, okay? Average 6s do this. They question almost everything. And we've seen this in a lot of 6s we know. They question almost everything. They struggle to get out of their head. And the pattern of the worst case scenario planning, this is where they live oftentimes. You know, they're overly focused on authority and can be either subservient on the one hand or rebellious on the other hand. So these are some things that you just definitely want to pay attention to if you are a 6.
Right. And so then the unhealthy 6, which we definitely want to work to get away from. Be aware of. They find danger around every corner. Their anxiety literally borders paranoia. And they fear the world is unfair and that most people are not what they say they are. So they really just can't trust anybody.
I feel like people can't be trusted.
So if you are bordering line that unhealthy, you definitely want to look at the strengths that come with your number and be cognizant of your own way that you think, the way that you see the world, and work towards being the healthiest version of yourself. And really that goes for every single number. And I would just say, as we're wrapping up today, you know, as leaders, and this is a leadership podcast, okay? As leaders, it is so important that we take the time to get to know people and recognize how they see the world. And I'm not saying...
So that we know how to work with them.
Yes.
Alongside them in the harvest field.
Exactly. Like, I'm not saying that you go up to everybody and you, like, psychoanalyze them.
What's your number?
What's your number?
So I know how to deal with
Because they might not know what the Enneagram is. But as you are talking to them, you always want to be thinking about, you know, What's their answers? How do they relate to other people?
Right.
So that you can begin to figure out how they see the world.
And
really
how to respond to them. Even today,
Yes.
you and I were having a conversation about a particular staff member, and I was about to
Right.
have a conversation as, within my number.
Right.
And I was ready to fire it off and get it done.
Because you just wanted to knock it
Because
out.
I wanted to get it done, and you said, no, wait a minute, you're dealing with a fill in the blank. Okay?
Right.
And you said this person doesn't need you to fire it off this way.
Right.
You need to think about how you're talking to this person, because
Yes.
this particular number
Right.
needs to be approached in a different way. And I thought,
Right.
thank you for your discernment.
Oh, but you didn't say that.
That's what I was
You should have
thinking.
said that. Thank you for
That's
your
what I was
discernment.
thinking.
Because
You
really,
need to know people's numbers that
you were
with.
kind of annoyed at that moment.
Because I wanted to get it done.
Right.
Because
But
when I'm operating in my strength, I have a 3-wing.
I know.
And so I'm a high achiever, and I want to get it done. And you're like, no, pumpkin, no. Slow down.
The fact
I
is,
know the
you
number
will
you're dealing with.
you will save yourself time.
It's true.
As a leader, as a parent, as a pastor, as an employer, as a friend, you will save yourself time.
Yeah.
If you will take the time to get to know the people in your life, and you will take the time to understand them,
Yeah.
their personality, the way they see the world, and then deal with them accordingly.
Yeah.
We would highly encourage you to get the book, The Road Back to You by Ian Cron. We'll link to it in this podcast, or if you're watching us on YouTube today, so that you can get it. You can listen to it on Audible. You can get the book. I am telling you, there are so many great resources on understanding the Enneagram that it will change the relationships and the dynamic of them around you.
Thank you so much for watching today or for listening. We hope that you've enjoyed the content that we've shared. And if it has blessed you, if you've found value in it, please share wherever you listen or view this content. Let's get the word out. Let's help as
Yes.
many people, whether they're pastors or church leaders, volunteers in the church today, to be equipped and to be prepared to do the work that God's called them to do in these last days. God bless you. We'll see you next time.